Quando e perché hai deciso che fotografare l'umanità sarebbe diventato il lavoro della vita?
Big, important question to begin with. First of all, it's not a job. It's a purpose. It's an obsession. It's a passion. I didn't understand all those adjectives until relatively recently. The camera was an excuse to run away. It's become an obsession and a passion now, but not when I started. I lived as a child with communities like these in the developing world. So for the first 7 years of my life, I believe I led the richest childhood you could ever have. Moving from continent to continent, to community, I wasn't the same color, I didn't speak the same language, I didn't believe in the same God, but I was deeply connected because I was open, I trusted, I loved the world and it loved me. So the idyllic childhood. At the age of 7, I left that childhood and went on another journey. I was sent to a boarding school in the United Kingdom, and the boarding school was managed by Catholic Jesuit priests. And the trust and the love and the connection I found in the developing world with the indigenous communities was not what I found in this institution. It was the opposite. And they disconnected me from that whole existence, without going into too much detail. At the age of 17, I realized it was unpalatable. I couldn't live with this feeling anymore. This feeling of not being connected with my emotions by being burdened with guilt. So I autodidactically or organically ran away, and I ran away back to try and reinvent my childhood. Because I could remember the feeling of trust and connection I had when I was small, and I wanted to get back to that feeling again. I took a camera with me to validate that journey, because I had to be going for a reason. As a 17-year-old child, teenager, you know nothing other than whatever. So I said, I'm off to make a picture, but it wasn't the picture I was looking for, it was the love. The love of the other to re-identify with the love for myself. So that's the journey that I'm still on. That's a very complicated journey and almost impossible to realign and reconnect. But by obsessively going on this creative search to see the other, I'm slowly creating a mirror of dignity, a mirror of pride, a mirror of humanity, a mirror of respect. And I hope that in that mirror I will eventually see myself. So that's what it's about. That's where the obsession is, to take it to the highest aesthetic standard that you could imagine, get as close as possible to the other to redefine myself.
Tu non rubi mai le fotografie, i tuoi soggetti sono i tuoi modelli, accettano di posare e collaborare con te e questa scelta è evidente in tutti i tuoi lavori. Le tue fotografie lo dichiarano, basta guardarle. Come avvicini le persone, le comunità in cui le persone vivono? Ci riveli il tuo segreto?
How do you approach people? In the same way you should approach everybody anywhere. And whether it's here in Milan at the airport or it's in the middle of Papua New Guinea, how you approach people with respect. You approach people with dignity. You approach people with your eyes. You approach people with kindness. You approach people with empathy and the minimum amount of judgment. So whether you're in the middle of nowhere or whether you're here on the corner, you approach people with the same way. Then you have to align, what am I hoping from this approach? What am I hoping from this relationship? When I go off into the indigenous world, I'm hoping for the deepest and the most profound connection that I could possibly achieve. To explain that and communicate that without a language, you have to be extremely patient, extremely focused, extremely vulnerable. Everything we are not here in the developed world. You have to metaphorically take everything off. All your strength, all your layers, all your fears, everything has to go, and you have to reconnect with that little vulnerable child. You have to put your hands up and say, I'm curious, I need to understand, I need to understand you. Teach me, guide me, feed me, love me, and I'm here to see you. But this sometimes takes months. If you understand why you're doing that, and you go on that journey of discovery, ultimately to discover yourself, the world of wonders open up for you. And wherever you go, that's why when you walk into this room, you have Mongolia to northern Kenya to Papua, 3 completely different parts of the world, but in essence, the pictures are the same. The connection is the same, the meeting is the same, the embrace is the same. And that's what I'm trying to share.
Okay, look at me. Laat gaan. 1, 2. No.
In queste fotografie ogni dettaglio è fortemente evidenziato e stagliato e perfetto su una scala quasi microscopica. Ma perché il grande formato? E come lavori per arrivare a questa perfezione di dettaglio, a questa ultra definizione nonostante il grande formato?
It's the opposite of problems.
Okay.
Can I tell you a story?
Yeah.
Rather than going into the technical detail, I gave a talk to many teenagers not so long ago, and they asked me the same question. Why bother? Why do you obsessively use this large format, plate, analog negative camera with a tripod, carrying it up and down mountains into the jungles? Life is now very easy. You don't have to make all this effort. And I was a little bit confused. And he said, nowadays we have technology. And one of the teenagers used his smartphone. He said, with this, I can do the same as you. And I can take 1,000 more pictures, 10 times more quickly, with 0 effort. And I could see, standing on the stage, I was dealing with a different generation, with a different perspective on life. So I had to stop talking about the technicality of photography and talk about something else. So I stopped and I said, okay, what do you want to feel? So these are thousands of teenagers. Oh, I don't need to feel anything. Bullshit, you need to feel something. He starts going a little bit red. And he says, yeah, but you won't understand that, you're too old. And I said, well, try me. You never know. There's somebody I want to kiss. This is what I want to feel. I said, wow, okay. Now we're talking. So all the teenagers put down their telephones and looked up as if I had some insight on kissing. And I said, I'm afraid I don't. But I'm going to use kissing with a metaphor in a comparison to photography. And I'm going to give you 2 options for a kiss. First option is, are you listening? So the whole audience is listening. Is you're going to go tomorrow to the school square at lunch. You take your iPhone and you press the button and you spray and pray, like you said. And you stand there and with 0 effort, 0 seduction, 0 failure, no rejection, you can kiss everybody all day. Guaranteed. You like this? Unanimously, all the children went, yeah, spray, pray, spray. So 1 million kisses, guaranteed. The second option is, okay, difficult, but it's about 1 kiss. And it's a kiss that's not guaranteed, I'm afraid. But because I'm a nice guy today, I'll give you the kiss. This kiss will last, if you're lucky, 3 seconds. You cannot choose, you cannot touch. You have to kiss on the cheek very softly. And it's the last 3 seconds of the last minute, of the last hour, of the last day, of the last week, after waiting for 3 months. So the second option is you have to wait for 3 months to look, to search, to find, to hunt, to be rejected, to invest in maybe, only maybe, 3 seconds. That's option 2 or option 1. Which option do you go for? And unanimously the kids went, spray and pray. Everything all at once with no investment. I said, that's okay. And they looked at me and there was silence. I said, well, I go for option 2, and there was a blank, but why? I said, because it's not about the kiss anymore. It's not about the kiss. I don't think I will ever get the kiss. The kiss is that perfection, but the search, the journey, the knowing that for the rest of my life, one day or another 40 years, I'm allowed, as a photographer, to go looking for this. That's what it's about. So I make my life very complicated. I make my camera very big, very heavy. I take the biggest film that I can take because I'm aspiring to make that one picture where everything is perfect. It's not possible, but I'm going to try. Because the subject matter has to be seen in this way. And the subject matter is humanity in all its glory, in all its beauty, wherever it is, however it talks, sees, thinks. And that's the search. The big analog camera is a sort of a dance around that search of connection. The more I go deeper, the more I invest, the more I align, the closer these people bring me in. If you spend a month waiting to make a picture on a mountain in minus 30 degrees, at the end of that month, these people don't let you go. You are us. You see us. You feel us. You honor us. You belong here. And that's all I want.
And I read that you went back to show the results.
It's very important to go back because that's the promise. It's this reciprocity. It's take and give, take and give, take and give. I take a picture. It's not my picture. It's their face, it's their culture, it's their landscape, it's their humanity. I record it. They don't see it because it's analog, but this is very important. We are not sitting behind computers. We're not on our iPhones. We're not deleting. We're not changing. We're feeling. We invest all those emotions into the process. You expose the shutter, 1, 2, 3, like this picture behind me. It's a 4-second exposure, standing on a waterfall. It's very difficult. Then you cannot see the picture straight away, but I think I have something close to the kiss. In this exaltation, they celebrate as well. But I'll be back. This is the promise. And then in time, it takes years, I travel back with the picture. But the irony is, when you come back with the picture, they're not interested in the picture. They're interested in me. You fulfilled your promise. This is what matters. The picture, yeah, if this is how you see us, fine. We know how we feel. We don't necessarily see. We know how we feel. That's why we are. You need to record it. That's your journey. But the fact that you came back, that's the most important.
Tecnica, estetica, etica. Nei tuoi lavori questi tre aspetti si mescolano e rifrangono l'uno sull'altro in maniera tale che è quasi impossibile distinguerli.
I think the most important in the list that you message is the aesthetics. That's subjective. It's what you see. I mean, art it's always in the eye of the beholder. This is my way of seeing the world. I put a border around it. I annotate it. Very romantic, very indulgent for all the reasons we just discussed. But the most important thing is ethics. Why? Why am I doing what I do? And how do I validate it to myself and to others? First of all, I am nothing other than an artist. Nothing more. I'm not an ethnologist. I'm not a journalist. Sometimes I question even if I'm a straightforward photographer. Since the age of 17, I have no official education. Nothing on paper. All the education I have taken from life. But the ethics is I see something very valuable in these individuals. I see a wealth, I see a power, I see a pride, I see a value that has to be seen and shared in the developed world. Traditionally speaking, indigenous cultures were recorded as lesser human beings. We would stand high and look down with long lenses and make an anthropological document. I feel accidentally I've inverted that process. I've put myself on the floor and I've used the oldest camera and the closest camera possible to look up and literally ask for help. Help me understand humanity. Help me understand you and help me align that and share a message with the world. That is the ethics. And in that process, you see humanity in a very, very different way. You see it as dignified. You see it as rich. You see it as honored. You see it as proud. And I think we have to, as human beings, realign that idea. In the developed world, until recently, we thought, we have all the answers. We are the advanced human beings. But today, we're waking up and thinking, oh, we haven't got it all right. Some aspects of our world are extraordinary, the technological aspects, but we're forgetting what it is to feel. forgetting what it is to be a human being. The indigenous world has a lot of those answers, so we have to bring the two together. So the ethics is that communication of trying to readdress a balance of how we look at each other. So when people come into this museum and they look at the pictures, I want them to be in awe. It's my subjective view, but I want this to be a catalyst for them to ask a question about themselves. Who am I? What are my values? What is my reason for being here? And how can I realign that and make that a richer journey for myself and for all of us? That's the ethics. So it's not anthropological or scientific, it's a mirror. It's a mirror for all of humanity. So the title is humanity, but it's not just the subjects on the wall, it's me, it's you. That's why this installation finishes with a mirror room. Look at yourself in context and feel, and question, and go on that journey, be curious, go back to that child, which we all once were, where everything was possible. Yeah.
In queste fotografie vediamo tante differenze e profonde differenze da una fotografia all'altra, da un soggetto all'altro, ma vediamo anche tante cose che accomunano questi soggetti e queste fotografie. Sembra che ti piaccia giocare con le similitudini, mettere ritratti da differenti continenti l'uno di fianco all'altro. Allora è più importante per te trovare le differenze o scoprire ciò che i soggetti hanno in comune?
Both. The similarities, we're all human. Going back to a few of the answers I gave to your questions before, how do you connect, how do you relate, how do you communicate? In exactly the same way, you go for that long-term kiss. But then at the same time, look at the wealth of authenticity. So that the fact that they're all aligned in the same way aesthetically, but the wealth of authenticity in their culture, the story that they have to tell, the wisdom that they have from living in the mountains to living in the jungle to living in the desert. So that dress is the ancestry of the stories, and by making it as aesthetic and as wonderful and as romantic as possible, I want that to be a catalyst for us to be curious. Why do they dress in this way? What do they know that we've forgotten? How can they have a wealth of humanity in a place where materially there is nothing, and at the same time we materially have everything, but don't even have a fraction of their dignity?
Chi sono i tuoi maestri? Abbiamo letto i nomi di Irving Penn e di Richard Avedon, ma altri fotografi, pittori, scrittori?
As I'm getting older, I'm becoming an avid reader and an avid consumer of other artists, photographic and fine art alike. But I think my real heroes are the 5 billion other photographers living on the planet today. These are who I'm trying to connect with, these are who I'm trying to inspire and be inspired of. I think this idea that photography is a medium is the first and the most global way of communicating with each other without language. So this is the humanity that's inspiring me the most. The creativity that people have through photography, and whether it's with an iPhone, with 10x8 analog, that's what's inspiring me the most. So obviously there is a legacy of heroes, and the list is too long. You mentioned some of them, going back all the way to Edward Curtis or to the very first pictures ever made by Fox Talbot or Daguerre. All up until today, teenagers running around with an iPhone. All of us making images, that's what inspires me. I have a voracious appetite for images and stories. Yeah. So not one in particular. Yeah.
Ci dici qualcosa della Jimmy Nelson Foundation?
The Jimmy Nelson Foundation is a humble story of reciprocity. So the dreams for it are monumental. But this whole idea is that I take a picture, I return with the picture in time, but more importantly, I return with an opportunity for the indigenous cultures to reinvest in their own heritage. So in a number of the communities that I've worked with, we invest money in sort of almost like a museum. Please gather what you have, gather your heritage, gather your knowledge, gather your stories. Do not abandon it and join us in the world of homogeneity. Hold on to it. So that's one aspect of it. Next to that, we are trying to translate all this wisdom for children in the developed world. So we have a free online platform for schools to go into and inspire young children to be more curious about humanity.
Il tuo prossimo progetto, il tuo prossimo viaggio, il tuo prossimo libro?
My next project is today here, the opening at Palazzo Reale, which I'm very proud of. Once this is opened, I'm in the middle of a new project with a working title called Middle Kingdoms. Essentially, it's the Middle East. So all the countries that have been ignored, abandoned, brutalized, hurt, hidden, ostracized, and in my opinion have some of the wealthiest cultural heritage still left on this planet today. So I'm going on quite a profound journey to rediscover that in the same way as I'm aspiring to show and present what's here in Palazzo Reale. And this will take, well, it will take a long time, but it's an extraordinary journey to aspire to create. And I think probably one of the wealthiest journeys that I will ever have.